This is the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. The podcast features conversation for musicians of all types and genres, a curation of expertise intended to help all musicians be better at marketing, business, the creative process, and all the other things that empower us to do more of what we love, make music. Hola amigos, and welcome to another episode of the Unstarving Musicians Podcast. Before we get started, I have something special for you. My good friend Lori Lee, who is also a podcaster, her podcast is called Love Your Story with Lori Lee, has a 21-day challenge, which is a way for you to test 21 different ways to improve your life story, a way for you to get more love, more possibility, and more peace. This is a way for you to find strategies that will work for you to improve your story and your life. It's 21 strategies delivered to your inbox in a way that's easy to understand, easy to implement, and easy to get results. In Lori's words, these are proven life hacks that I've seen work with hundreds of people just like you, and they'll work for you too. Take the plunge and invest in you and your best life story. I think this is a great thing for you to take advantage of. It's a great fit-in with the episode that you're about to hear. So here's what you do. Go to loveyourstorypodcast.com/21-day-challenge, and that's using the number 21. loveyourstorypodcast.com/21-day-challenge. And if you decide to sign up, use the coupon code UNSTARVING for a special deal. Okay, on with today's episode. You are about to hear a wonderful conversation between moi and Lisa Leuschner Andersen, who just so happens to be partner in crime with award-winning producer Kid Andersen of Greaseland Studios. You can hear Kid in the third episode of this podcast, by the way. Lisa's actually queen at Greaseland Studios. She's a vocal instructor, singer with San Francisco's Foreverland, a Michael Jackson tribute band, alumni of American Idol's Seasons 2 and 3, and Showtime at the Apollo alumni. She's a dancer, Bitstrips artist, and a really fun person to talk to. She comes from a musical family, has been gigging since she was 7 years old, and she hears every sound made at Greaseland Studios from anywhere in the house. Be careful what you say. We talk about her jump to career musician, her first and only audition ever, bedtime jams, something you must see on Facebook. Just put in the hashtag bedtime jams with a Z. We also talk about El DeBarge, American Idol, life at Greaseland Studios, and her advice to would-be career musicians. Check out her work at about.me/hello. That's about.me/HELLEUW. Is that hello or hello? I'm not sure. You should probably put on some 80s slow jams background music for this episode. I think Lisa would love you for that. Enjoy my conversation with Lisa Leuschner Andersen. Lisa Leuschner Andersen, welcome to the Unstarving Musicians Podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to have you on. I know we've been working on this for a little while. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
Yeah, you came up in recent conversation when I was having a conversation with Rockin' Johnny Bergen, and we were talking about his singing, and I thought this was going to be mostly what I was going to talk to you about today, but I've learned I have so much more to ask you about. But I asked him about his singing because he'd mentioned early on it wasn't a strong suit for him, and things had come around, and some certain things had to happen. And when I asked him what was a pivotal or big factor in helping him make the leap, so after he kind of told his blues man story about singing, your name immediately came up when I asked the question. He said, well, I took voice lessons from Lisa, and frankly, she taught me to do some warm-up exercises, and it made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, he's got a great voice, too, so he said he felt a little funny doing those warm-ups, but I think he's definitely improved. Like I said, he's got a great voice, so he's already got that.
Yeah, I'm sure he's used to it now. Last time I was in your home, the first time and last time, I was interviewing your husband, yes? Kid Andersen?
That's right.
Yeah, I know. I was like, hey, they are married, right? I think I saw some wedding photos. And you were doing a vocal lesson then. So how long have you been an instructor? Because as I mentioned, I thought this was going to be the main thing I wanted to talk to you about, but it turns out it's not. But I am curious, how long have you been instructing and how did it start?
Personally, I had lessons when I was like really, really young, like when I got started on that. But I didn't personally start teaching until I had a day job. I was 21, I would say, but I didn't actually even think to teach until probably I was 30, and I'm 35 now, so not that long.
Wow, putting it all out there for us. That's great.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's cool. Your home is quite a treasure trove of music, and one of the first things I recall seeing when I walked in was a piano, and there you were.
There's a grand piano in the kitchen and on the porch. Not a grand piano, but there's a piano on the porch.
Yeah, that's right. It was a grand in the kitchen. Do you guys ever eat on top of that thing with a nice little tablecloth on it?
No, but I have sat on it.
Sure. Before we came on the air, I was asking you about Foreverland, an electrifying tribute to the music of Michael Jackson. Tell me about how you got involved and just anything about it. It looks so cool.
Everyone that knows me knows that I'm such a huge fan of Michael Jackson. So I had heard about the band kind of like through the grapevine, but it wasn't until I guess one of their singers was moving, and they were holding auditions. And so I heard about this through the convoluted connection I said last time, which is basically the old drummer of the Nightcats. His wife went to church with someone in the band. So anyway, they were having auditions, and I wrote them an email at like 4:00 in the morning and was like just super enthusiastic. And I've never done that before. I've never really like put myself out there, but I thought if I'm going to do kind of like a cover band type thing, then it's got to be something I really love, and I love Michael Jackson. So I wrote them an email and I said, you need me. I love Michael Jackson so much, and what do we got to do to make this happen? And they said, come on in and audition, and the rest is history.
Was that in San Francisco that you auditioned?
Yeah.
Cool. I gathered that they're based out of San Francisco, and you were also mentioning the timeline. When did that happen?
2012.
Something to the effect of it was the first time you'd really put yourself out there. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
I've been in lots of bands, and I've done a lot of projects and just different things, but I've never really auditioned for like a band or kind of like begged to audition for a band. I usually play it a little bit more cool than that, but I couldn't hide my excitement about all Michael Jackson all the time.
That's great. I would imagine that because of your talent and the folks that you surround yourself with, you often get the, hey, you're pretty good. Why don't you come play this gig with us or join this tour with us? So I could see that happening to you.
Actually, what I hear a lot is, you should audition for American Idol. And I go, really? Yeah.
Since you brought it up, tell me a story about either American Idol, I was going to ask, or Showtime at the Apollo, or both if you want.
Oh, yeah. I did American Idol. I would say that was kind of like how I started only doing music. So I used to work at a hotel and was kind of going to go into like the normal having a day job and being a musician, at night type thing. But once I auditioned for American Idol, I realized I didn't have any time to have a day job or do anything else. So that kind of set me on my path of only doing music. And I'm actually glad, though, because I never really looked back. I'm not really cut out for a 9-to-5 job anyway.
So you quit that silly hotel job and went and worked on American Idol?
Yeah, never looked back. American Idol was really fun. It was really, really hard, really difficult. Like a lot of people, that's kind of their first question. They're like, wasn't that fun? And I'm like, I wouldn't really use fun to describe it. It's not that it wasn't fun, because it was, but it was just more hard. It was just more difficult. And the only thing I really wish that I had known before I kind of went on the show was I didn't realize that it was more a television show than it was like about music or about talent. It's definitely more like they want to see your reactions more, and they want to kind of get you crying. And it's definitely more of a reality show than a
talent show.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought, oh, well, if I just go on the show and sing the best I can, then I'll be all right. But it was different.
Did you realize at some point in time that it was, oh, hey, this is a reality show, I guess I better be emotional? Or did you just keep on singing your heart out the whole time and just that?
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't really do the reality thing, I tried a little bit. And they got a little frustrated with me. Especially at the time, there was so many things going on. My mom was sick. She just had a heart attack. And so I was really already, emotional as it was. And they really kept pushing me to talk about it. And they were like, this is gold. And I'm like, this is not gold.
This is my life.
Yeah, exactly. And I hate to say it like this because I'm not trying to knock anyone who does the show and is open about their life or anything like that. Everyone's different and that's fine. But I'm not that type of person, I'm not a reality television type person. So I'm more private. So I didn't feel comfortable with. And then when it was first at the Apollo, that was actually more of like a thing where I said, hey, this will be fun to just go audition with my friends and stand in line all day in Oakland and see what happens. And but I really wanted to do it. I ultimately wanted to do it because it's such an iconic stage. And I wanted to kind of have that in my back pocket, my bragging rights of being like, hey, I've stood on the Apollo stage and I've done my thing. I knew that was going to be hard, but I don't think I've ever been that nervous before, ever.
Did you get to do the work for Showtime at the Apollo more locally than you did the American Idol stuff? And what season was it, the American Idol stint?
I did 2 and 3 for American Idol.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I made it to Hollywood on season 2, and then I came back for season 3, and that's when I made the final. So that was like 2004. God, that's so long ago.
Where did the time go, right?
I know. It's crazy.
Did you get to actually rehearse a little more local or work a little more locally for Showtime at the Apollo? Or
No. I mean, I auditioned in Oakland, and then I went to New York. It was crazy. And one thing about Showtime at the Apollo, though, that's really interesting is that, I watched it when I was growing up. I loved watching it. I knew that the objective is to not get booed. I knew that was the deal. You don't want the Sandman to come out and all that. But what I didn't realize was that they film like a week's worth of shows all in the morning. So we filmed the show that I was on at 7 a.m. and already I was like, whoa, and so they kind of just get people off the street to come in and be the audience. And they come in, I think the audience knows that their job really is to boo you off the stage. That's kind of what they want to get you off that stage. So when I get nervous too, what happens is my mouth goes dry, so like all the things that you don't want to happen when you're singing happen. So when I walked out there, the first thing they did was boo me, like immediately, like I hadn't even said anything. And they started booing me, and I'm like, okay, all right then.
Wow.
But they edited my performance really well. Either they edited it really well or I didn't remember it. Like, it's funny. I'm not sure which one is true. But when I watch it back, after it was over, I was like, oh, that was terrible. They were just booing me and they hated it. But then when I watched it back, I'm like, no, they were totally into it. I think they just showed the people that liked it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. Well, I'm sure when you're on stage and you hear anything negative, that's all you can hear.
Exactly. Yeah, my eyes went straight to the people who were like, get off the stage. And that's all I could really focus on. It actually wasn't that bad. So
That sounds like it was fun. When did you do that?
I did that, I think, in 2006 or something like that.
Okay, so it was after the AI.
It was after.
Seasons. It's funny, I'm reading a book about AI and I was taking notes going, oh, AI.
It is kind of like that.
Yeah. I want to jump around for a second. So, I might have briefly met you before I came to your home and the Greaseland Studios to interview your husband, Kid. And we were talking about that. Episode 3, he was my first ever and only to this day in-person interview. So I'd bought this new piece of gear to do it with, and here I am in this studio, and I bring this little piece of gear, which is actually a nice field recorder, but I'm asking Kid, hey, where should I place this thing so we'll get the most out of the mics? But he helped me with that. We had a really fun conversation. So yeah, he was my third conversation. My first one actually just aired this week, and that happened because it was with Rex Brown, who was the bass player for Pantera, and he's now a solo artist, and he's an old friend of mine, but I had technical challenges with it, and I decided not to air it, but then went back and listened and let the editor listen to it and talked Rex into letting me air it. But anyway, Kid was great. It was nerve-wracking, but he's definitely a very chill person. So I see that he was nominated again for a BMA.
Yes, I think they lead the pack.
That's cool. Do you get to go to those ceremonies with him? Do you go to the party?
Yeah, totally.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
That's exciting for the two of you. So much great work coming out of Greaseland, and I know that you are very involved in recording and doing some vocal stuff for a lot of people, and I don't even know what else. But actually, since I'm on that, can you talk a little bit about your life and contributions at Greaseland?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think out of all the records that have been done here, I think I sing on like every single one. We were looking at them. It was funny because I was trying to at least get like a record of everything that I've done, my discography, or whatever. We have every record that we do on the wall in the hallway, and every time someone comes over, I'm singing on this one, this one, this one, this one. I think pretty much, yeah, all of them. It's just so easy for me, to wake up and do it. But what's funny is a lot of times people will book their set, they'll have it all ready, and then they'll come in and Kid will be like, yeah, Lisa can help us out if you need her to. And some people are surprised because they had no clue. They're like, oh, we have a vocal coach singer who lives here. It's perfect.
Oh, so you do a little coaching for some of the sessions as well?
Yeah, totally. I've done that lots of times. Yeah, and then like for instance, if I'm home, which like recently there was the Tommy Castro band was here, Tommy Castro, and he was in the vocal booth and he was trying to do this bridge and he was kind of writing it as he was doing it because he hadn't finished some of the lines. And me and Kid often when we're in the house together, we'll text each other. So we just because the pinnacle of laziness. So I heard him struggling with this line and I just thought of a line. So I texted Kid and he was like, hey, Lisa just came up with this. And he was like, perfect. And it just worked out. And he's like, come on in here and sing it then. It's just funny.
In that instance, you just changed his lyric in the melody a little bit?
Yeah.
You are handy to have around.
I am. There's something funny about this house, too. You can hear. It's funny because you can record here, and it's like a really good house to record in, but you can hear everything. Like, if someone's on the porch, you can hear them from the back, or whatever. So it comes in handy, though, when someone's struggling with the line.
I'll be careful what I say next time I'm over.
Yeah. Careful.
So you're a drummer, too?
Yes, I am.
How long have you been playing drums?
Actually, I played drums for fun since I was a kid, but really Kid has been kind of forcing me to get out there and play. And
get over here and do this track for us.
Yeah, exactly. But my father is actually, he's a great musician. He's a genius. He can play anything, but he was always such a great drummer, growing up that I was like, well, why should I play? Because he can do it and he's awesome. But now he was like, you're a chip off the old block. And he's been teaching me stuff. You can tell he's really proud because he's like, oh, we got another drummer in the family.
That's great. And it looks like you can sing and play as well.
Yeah. It's not easy, but it's fun though.
So I don't know if you knew this, but I'm a drummer and have been singing and playing for a number of years too. And I find it pretty challenging. It's not the most enjoyable thing. I'd rather just sing or just play drums. But I saw I saw some pictures of you singing and playing, and now that I'm talking about it, because I wanted to tell you during our conversation that I need to schedule some time with you to do some vocal coaching at some point in the future. And now that we're talking about the fact that you play drums and do it a little bit too, that might be helpful as well.
Totally. I know. I don't think people realize how hard that is. It is. I guess you see people play guitar and sing all the time, but there's something special about keeping that beat and singing, two completely different things.
Yeah, I didn't really think a lot of it for a long time. I had always just told people when they mentioned it that, but it's like playing any instrument and singing, right? Your fingers or your mind's doing something else while it's working on the whole motor skill and the pitch exercise of singing. But then I realized after decades of playing that with drumming, depending on the situation, you're actually exerting some energy from all the movement that just doesn't come with every instrument. So maybe I guess it's a little more, demanding than I ever admitted. But it's always been demanding for me. But I'm like, well, everybody plays. These guys that sing and play an instrument, they're doing the same thing. But
yeah, I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, it's not that hard.
Yeah, I'm sure you make it seem a lot very easy. I see that you have recorded a gospel album, and I wanted to ask you about your interest in gospel and also just about your music influences, both early and what's moving you today.
Yeah, that was a really, really awesome project to do. It's funny because people are like, oh, well, you must have grown up in the church. I didn't really grow up in the church, at least not musically. I didn't really start singing at the church until I was an adult. But definitely gospel music and soul and R&B and all that stuff has definitely been a huge part of my influences. Yeah, when we decided to do the gospel record, we had all these cool ideas, but really who kind of curated that album was Rick Estrin. He's got such an eclectic taste, and he really has a knack for kind of picking songs that you wouldn't think to do. So we do a lot of songs on that record that, like I do a duet with Paul Osher, and I do a Stevie Wonder cover. It's not a traditional gospel song, but it definitely fits the theme. It was really fun to do. But I would say my influences, they all kind of lean towards R&B and soul. Stevie Wonder, DeBarge. I love El DeBarge.
Nice.
I love El DeBarge. It's funny because I love the 70s, but 80s slow jams, that's my jam.
You like that as well?
Yeah.
I see my good buddy George Brandow got on there on your Saturday night gospel hour.
Yes,
When did you record that?
Asking me all these questions that I have to remember stuff for.
Well, let me see if this is about right. I can't tell because I'm looking at, and I have a follow-up question, but I'm looking at it on SoundCloud and it says 5 years ago. Is that about right?
Probably. What was 5 years ago? 2013. Yeah.
Do you have this for sale? Well, anywhere? Is it distributed anywhere? Or do you just have it on SoundCloud?
I don't think it's for sale anywhere, actually. I think that one, we never really got a chance to really push it. I remember we did it, and we were all excited to do it, and then both of us, me and Kid, we got pulled away to do other projects, so we never really got that chance to promote it or go out and tour and do things with it, which was a bummer.
Well, it's never too late to revisit.
Yeah. I think you can always get stuff through Kid. Kid always finds a way to sell stuff or get things in people's hands.
Do you have any of your recordings, have you published anything for sale?
Yeah. After American Idol, I did 2 records for a record company on the East Coast, and I think those records are available. I did a Christmas album, and I did a pop album.
Now, if I would have known you did a Christmas album, I would have put it on the Unstarving Musician Christmas playlist.
Yeah. Christmas music, man. It's a big market.
I do enjoy the holiday music, and I was telling my wife the other day that I read this article that somebody did some research that said that the repetitive listening to it can alter your mood, not in a good way. And I was like, maybe I do get a little bummed at the end of the holidays.
I know. And then you got the sad Christmas songs, so you got to be careful.
Do you have the names of those 2 releases off the top of your head?
Yeah. The Christmas album's called Sing Me Home, and the pop album's called Reality.
I'm going to look those up. Where did you and Kid meet, and when?
Me and Kid met about, I think, a little bit after he moved here, which was in 2001. And we met because we had mutual friends who saw each other out at Moe's Alley. So it's kind of funny that we met at a blues club. I had no idea that he was a musician, and he had no idea I was either. So he didn't find that out until he actually saw me on television.
How much longer after you met was that?
I think like a couple years or a year or something like that.
Oh, so then obviously you weren't dating right away.
No, we didn't actually get together until 8 years later, 9 years later, something like that.
Wow, and then he finds out a couple years after you met that you're a singer. How funny.
Yeah, and I had no idea that he had no clue.
I don't know if he has told you, but he and I met in the garage of one of George Brandau's siblings. There was a birthday party going on, and I guess his family coaxed George into putting some music together. So he gets Kid and myself and a couple other people over there, and I had no idea who he was, and he sits down.
Oh, like instant band?
Yeah, he sits down on the keyboard and starts just noodling. I'm like, uh-oh, this guy's really good. And then I'm sure he was playing guitar a little while later, and so I'm a big Rolling Stones fan, and he starts telling me about his Rolling Stones tribute band in Norway. I'm like, okay, wow.
Oh, yeah, he's got a lot of knowledge.
Yeah, anyway, needless to say, I was pretty blown away. And when I think about it, that he was there for that night, it still kind of makes me laugh and think, well, that was a really lucky thing to sit there and jam with him.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, man.
Funny how that works out.
I don't know if this is going to ring a bell or not, but I wanted to ask you about Bitstrips. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The, like, cartoon app thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you like my Bitstrips?
I do, and I know nothing about Bitstrips. I don't know if it's something that you do or a friend does, or is it a commercial thing, but there's some really cute comic animations there, and so you have to tell me about it.
Yeah, that's so funny that you bring that up, because I have fans, I think, that I'll be out and they'll say, hey, I love that little cartoon you made. Yeah, I think it's just an app that I got into a couple years ago, but I love making them about my friends and about my bandmates and about Kid. And it's funny because people will come up to me and say, hey, it's just so funny how things, you put them up and you think that they're just going to kind of be like an inside joke between the person that you made them for. And then people will be like, hey, I saw your funny cartoon. And it's cool.
I see it now on Facebook. I was looking at the different little drawings, and I'm like, wow, I wonder if this is a friend of hers that does these. And then as I'm asking you, I'm like, maybe you do them, and I didn't know you were an artist too. But now
no,
I see Bitstrips here. That's pretty cool. I'll have to put that in the show notes.
I think you do have to have like a talent.
What does that mean?
You got to make it look like the person, like even though you're not drawing it.
I see.
You got to make it look like the person you're.
So you are
a little
an
bit
artist.
I mean, not really, but. And you get a funny strip. You got to make it a funny situation and stuff. So yeah.
Anyway, you have to have those things to have any success or popularity with it, right?
Yes, you do. I hope so.
I saw Aki Kumar in there.
Oh, yeah.
Some of yours, and Kid, of course, and yourself, and probably a bunch of other people I didn't recognize or just didn't get to yet. But I just saw a couple of them, and then I was looking at some albums that you had, and I'm like, oh, she's got a whole album of them, so I haven't gone through those yet. But
yeah, Aki's a favorite of mine. We have a funny relationship. I'm totally like a kid sister to him, I annoy him, and he annoys me as well in the most loving way, so I like to kind of poke fun at him in those.
He is a lovely guy, and I could see that, I could kind of imagining the relationship.
Yes, he is.
That's very cool. Speaking of Aki, it looks like you have toured with him. I know you have definitely performed with him. We have actually a video of his with you on the Unstarving Musician website related to an interview that we did with him. But have you done some touring with him as well?
Yeah, just around here, though. No, I haven't been anywhere with him. But I think I'm going to be on his new one as well.
When's that coming out? Inside scoop here.
I'm not sure. I think pretty soon, though.
They've been working on it?
Yeah, they have. I'm trying to add, as many images as I can to my repertoire. So I've done Korean covers. I've sung in Spanish. Well, I've sung in Norwegian. And yeah, so I've sung. It's been hard. It's really hard to sing in Hindi. It's really hard. He has a funny little way of writing it out for me too, with he puts the nose when it has to be nasal and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
I like a challenge though, so
Yep. Sorry, I'm going to jump around again, but I almost forgot. I wanted to ask you if you and Kid and Company are still doing bedtime jams.
Oh, bedtime jams, man. Now that is a sleeper hit. Yeah, we're definitely still doing that. It's crazy how much that took off, really.
When's the next season?
I know. When's the next episode? You know what's funny is at first when we started it, we've done like 6 episodes now or something like that. And people are like, when's the next one? We got to know so we can plan. And we're like, should we plan or should, it's kind of more exciting for it to be, we don't know. And so you got to be on your toes. You got to be ready.
If you were wanting to just get some real traction with it, do it at the same time every month and people will start tuning in, I guarantee you.
I know. That would be smarter.
Well, and I don't know how easy that is for you guys, but yeah, I've seen a couple and enjoyed them. Why don't you talk a little bit about how it came about, what it is, and when you think the next one's going to be?
Bedtime jams, it totally came about just randomly. We were honestly hanging out in bed, me and Kid, and we decided to go live on Facebook and just start doing some songs and taking requests from the audience. And it was so much fun, and it kind of blew up from the first time we did it that we were like, we got to do this all the time. And I think the second episode was my birthday, so that made it even more exciting. And yeah, I think we're going to do one with my brother. We've done one with my dad. We've had special guests. We had Andy Santana on my birthday one. We got to have Rick Ester on one. You know, we got to have everyone on there. It's like a, you know, it's a new craze.
Involving other people, you've had to plan it out a tiny bit, I guess, or if they're around, they're like, hey, let's do a bedtime jams. Let's go change into our jammies. Or are you telling people to bring their jammies or anything?
Yeah, actually, we have pajamas here that we've loaned out. You know, we've loaned out to people, and yeah, it's been a lot of fun. But it's so funny because I'll be somewhere. It's just like the Bitstrips thing where I'm like, I just am not expecting someone to say, hey, bedtime jams. And I got a video message from Switzerland where they're like, I love your bedtime jam.
That's funny. So that people can have any chance of finding this, because there's not like a page for it. Do you guys usually do it on Kids' profile or page? Or
we usually do it on Kids' page, but we do have a hashtag. It's hashtag bedtime jams with a Z. So you can find it that way, like boys to men.
And that's on Facebook, kids, in case you didn't catch that.
It is.
I get a kick, too, out of the ones that I've seen, because it's very apparent that you're, or at least on one of them I've seen, that you're using somebody's phone, maybe yours, and you're watching some of the reactions come in, which is pretty cute.
Totally.
And then Kids' page, is that his profile, Christopher Lund Andersen, or is it?
It's his profile, yeah. I think, though, that it's facebook.com/Kid Andersen. I'm pretty sure that.
It sure is, yep. I'm looking at it. Okay, cool, yeah. So for people who want to see that, and you can also learn about Greaseland Studios there, where both Kid and Lisa often do their fine work.
Right.
I wanted to know a little bit about your childhood, and maybe I'll just squeeze this in by throwing it out, because maybe it will set a time frame for you. And I assumed, you can tell me if I'm wrong, that you grew up in the Bay Area, but here's the thing I wanted to maybe use as a scene setter, but I saw you on a Barbie bike for your birthday when you were very little.
Mm-hmm. That's
so
right.
Can you tell a story about your childhood, growing up maybe?
Yeah, I did grow up in the Bay Area, Santa Cruz, which was awesome. It was really fun, and both my parents are musical. My father, as I mentioned before, is like total genius musician. I have one younger brother. He's 5 years younger than me, and he's all musical. And my mom's a great singer. And I always say it was a natural progression for me to grow up and live in a music store.
And you
or
did?
a music studio. Well, that's what it feels like.
Oh, yeah.
I live at Greaseland now, yeah. Because, I mean, I've always been surrounded by music, so it's nothing new. And I prefer it, actually. I love it. And I think the picture, where did you see that picture of me and the Barbie bike? You just saw it on Facebook or something?
Yeah, some Throwback Thursday something.
I was a really cute kid. I don't know what happened.
Oh, come on. You're still as cute as a button, as the saying goes.
Yeah, I love that bike, the Barbie bike. Yeah, I had a great childhood. I really did. Family is, I would say, the most important thing to me. And me and my family are really close. And so I always look on my growing up times really with a lot of fondness, because I love them so much, and I just had such a good time. even to this day, actually. It's almost like I never really grew up, though.
Especially now.
Yeah, especially when I'm around my family and stuff. They allow me to still just have fun and not worry about adult things.
Did they recognize early on that you were gravitating towards singing and music, and how did that play out? Did they nurture that as not just as something that you enjoyed, but also something maybe that you would do professionally?
My mom taught me standards, like someone to watch over me, those jazz standards. She taught me those when I was like a toddler. So I think that she knew immediately that it's something I enjoyed and that I had a knack for. And then my first ever gig, I was 7 years old, and it was a big band that my dad played keyboards in, like an old time big band. I think it was like 17 pieces or something like that. And they had a gig on a Mother's Day, and I came up and I sang my 3 songs, which were Yes, Sir, That's My Baby, All of Me, and All the Things You Are. And it's really cute because we have film of it, and no one told me not to sing when they had like their little interludes, their musical interludes, So I made up my own parts, and I just kept singing the entire time.
How old were you?
7. And that turned into a weekly gig, and so I always say I was working since I was 7, and I never really looked back. But they were the ones driving me to my lessons and my gigs, and but they never pushed me, though. That's something because I see that a lot nowadays. Who will come up to me, they say, how do I get my child into performing? And I said, if they want to, then they'll do it. All you can do is really support them, but you don't want to fall in that trap of being kind of like a stage mom or a stage dad, where you live vicariously through your kid, or or you push them, I think that's the scary thing.
Yeah, I had 2 different interviews, one with a Radio Disney artist named Samantha Laporta, and then a couple of episodes later with her mother, who's one of her managers along with her dad. And her mother, Terry Laporta, was a child entertainer too. And we talked a lot about these kind of things that you mentioned and just her observations. And she's trying really hard to protect her daughter's childhood, of course. And yeah, I'm sure it's very hard. Okay, just 2 last questions. I was having so much fun learning about you. I don't know that I asked much for my audience, but for people that are maybe looking to transition or make the final push so that their life is fully about music, or at least feels fully about music, what can you impart upon them to help out? Because I know that you had talked about this maybe fortuitous thing that happened with the American Idol deal, and you had a job and you're like, oh, I don't have time, and then that sort of set things in motion for you. But do you have any words of wisdom or tips?
I think it's a dangerous game, because if you really love music and you really want to do it more, you don't want to fall into that kind of trap of ending up resenting something that you love so much. And I think that every musician kind of is faced with that dilemma sometimes. I know I was, where as soon as I decided that I wasn't going to have a day job, that I was just going to focus on music, I decided to kind of take every single opportunity, that was presented to me. And when you do that, it's dangerous, because then you end up doing things that you don't really want to do, and then you kind of resent it. You don't want to be up there at whatever age, I'm not going to say it's an age thing because it's not, but you don't want to be up there, saying, if I sing Respect one more time, I'm going to, go crazy or whatever. So I think it's definitely something to keep in perspective, and you got to be careful. And that's the problem with everyone who is trying to make it their living. It's always a scary thing because it's hard to only rely on your love to make a living. But if you can't do it, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with supplementing your income, doing something else until you can, I just think it's a dangerous thing to, in any field, you don't want to end up hating something that you first started out loving.
Sure, maybe not put too much pressure on yourself to
exactly.
Force something to happen.
Absolutely. So yeah, that would be my only advice.
Well, that's great. I really appreciate that. Where can people best find you online to learn about what you're working on and your music?
I have an About Me page that has like everything on it. It's got like my Facebook, my Instagram, my everything.
I'll put it in the show notes too. Well, Lisa, it was Such a pleasure to speak with you. I hope that we can do it again sometime. Please give my regards to your husband, Kid Andersen, and next time I'm in the Bay Area, I'm going to be sure to shoot you guys a message, and hopefully I can come out and see you play, or we can just hang out.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Hey, this is Robonzo. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play Music. If you liked this podcast, please leave a review. This episode was sponsored by the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs, How to Get Booked and Paid What You're Worth Over and Over Again, available on Amazon and in audio format as the Unstarving Musician's Guide podcast. You can also learn more about the book and companion podcast at unstarvingmusician.com/book. Are you a gigging musician, recording artist, songwriter, or touring professional, perhaps struggling to get your music out to the world? Struggling to get the gigs you want? Pop over to unstarvingmusician.com and sign up for my email list. I'll send you occasional emails about upcoming episodes, expert tips and advice, music, musician resources, and anything else I come across that might make your journey better and brighter. The Unstarving Musicians podcast is edited by Juan Perez. Are you a podcaster? Would you like 20% off on editing of your first 4 episodes? Visit the show notes for this episode for a link to Juan's freelance profile or unstarvingmusician.com/resources and mention you heard about this offer through the Unstarving Musicians podcast. With much gratitude, peace, love, and more cowbell.